Hello everyone, today I'll be doing my Premier League predictions for the 2021-2022 season. I know I'm starting it just one game into the season, but long year, so still very early in the season. So I'll start down at 20. So I think the team will come in 20th, and yes, they did win their first game, will be Brentford. I think Brentford's just lacking the quality and experience of the other sides, especially because I think the difference between the Premier League and the Championship will only grow more and more and more every year due to the amount of money that's now in the Premier League. Um, so I think Brentford will not only lack the quality but also just the experience and know-how of the other sides. 19, I have Norwich. They will be much improved they'll be much improved this year in comparison to when they were in the Prem 2 years ago, simply because of again the added experience, but still lacking the quality. And they were far off the pace of the Prem 2 years ago, and I think they'll continue to struggle this year. 18 Brighton. I think Brighton's very well managed, but losing Ben White was tough for them to recover from. Um, and I don't think they'll have enough goals in them this year to stay up. And with their defense lacking from Ben White being gone, not enough new big signings, I think it's their time to get relegated. 17 Southampton. So Southampton, Southampton's an interesting one because they lost. They were a quality side last year. However, losing Ings, I think, will hurt them more than they realize. They were almost relegated, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago. Ings really had a good year last year, which kept them relevant. And then also losing Vestergaard and Lamina will hurt them. I mean, they lost Højbjerg last year, which hurt them. So I think they've been losing too many of their big name players, and which will like really hurt them. However, they do have enough quality um, to stay above, just barely above the relegation zone. I think Ward-Prowse will have a career season, but I predict him leaving next summer and Southampton going down next year. I think a little bit of quality from Ward-Prowse, and again the experience being in the Prem the past however many years will keep them up for now, but it'll be a struggle for them this year. Next up, we have 16. We have Wolves. Losing Nuno will hurt them more than they know. They do have the quality. They do have more quality of the teams below them than the teams below them. But I think losing Nuno will continue to make them slide from the where they were, 3-4 years ago. Next up, we have Burnley. Burnley's not a good side. They're by no means some sexy team, but Sean Dyche can play good football, so I think they're pretty much a shoe in to stay just barely up. Every year they have Sean Dyche at manager. One crazy thing though is I was looking at their transfer market. In the past 5 years, their net spend is only £27 million. So that is just horrendous. I think if Burnley were to go down, they would really struggle to come back up to the Premier League. So I don't know what their ownership situation is like, but no clue why they aren't investing while they currently have a good manager. They've been in the Premier League past 5-6 years. And like I'm saying, if they're not going to invest, they'll just continue to drop bit by bit every year. And I think that'll really bite them in the ass in a few years if they were to go down in the Championship. I don't think they'd have the funds to simply climb their way back up the next year. Next up, we have Palace. New manager in Vieira. Don't really rate him that much. Kind of unproven in the Premier League as a manager, obviously. I know he wasn't all that successful when he was in League One, but Zaha has more quality than anyone on the teams than anyone on the teams from 15 to 20, so he'll be able to keep them up. Don't expect too much excitement from them. I feel bad. I would have put them top 10, I think, if they had Eze. I think that'd be a very dangerous duo there, but he's not set to return for a while now, so I think they'll struggle early and have a good second half of the year and finish comfortably 14th. Next up, we have Watford. So I was a little bit surprised the year Watford did go down. I felt like they had almost too much quality to go down, and I really like what they've done with their side, and that they do have goals in the team with Sarr and Deeney. And they also just signed some new midfielder as well. But they also have the experience. I really like them bringing in Danny Rose on a free. They have, of course, main man, the YouTuber Ben Carson, and then they also have, Ben Foster. I always mix up Scott Carson, Ben Foster, not Scott Carson. And then they also have Tom Cleverley in the midfield. So they have like England international experience on the team, along with like goals and with Deeney, and then like a playmaker with Sarr. So I think they're a quality side, and I think they'll play some exciting games this year. 13th feels fair. Next up, we have West Ham coming in at 12th. West Ham, they didn't really spend much at all. They lost Felipe Anderson, and they benefited greatly from the spark that Lingard gave them last year. So I feel as though it's almost like Antonio's a monster, but I feel like they almost worked him into the ground last year. And so they're lacking the squad depth to have like another top six, or even, in my opinion, top half finish. So I feel like they're almost like tired legs. They really benefited from Lingard. There's still a lot of questions on whether or not he'll be at United this year. I don't think they have the depth or goals off the bench to be able to compete for another top half finish. Next up, we have Aston Villa. So at 11th, I think this will surprise people because they did do some pretty good business, bringing in Leon Bailey and bringing Leon Bailey as well as a few other signings. But losing Grealish, I think, will just hurt them more than they know, simply because, let's just say, I see them blowing a lot of leads late in games. Let's just say they have the lead. Like, they could always rely on Grealish last year to carry the ball down the pitch, hold the ball up, get a foul, create plays, like, control the pace of the game. And I don't think they'll have the same quality without Grealish, and there'll be a huge gap to fill, not just in talent, but also like within leadership, and the ability to control the flow of the game was something that they relied on heavily. And we saw last year they really slipped the second half of the year last year. I believe they were like top 6, if not higher, at Christmas time last year, and then finished mid-table to end last year. So I think they really slipped up without Grealish. And I think they will continue to. Well, again, they did do some decent business, but bringing in Danny Ings and Leon Bailey. But while Ings will bring goals, I don't know if he'll bring the same quality as Grealish. So 11th place for Aston Villa. 10th place, I have Newcastle. So Newcastle, I think, will make the biggest jump of any of these sort of bottom half teams from last year. And that's they have a solid side, and I think signing Willock is what they need. Sort of how like Lingard gave West Ham the spark they needed last year, Willock gave Newcastle a similar spark, and they really ended last year, I think, confidently and playing like top football, ended in top form, and they made the signing they needed. And I think the past few years, Newcastle's just been focused on staying up in the Premier League, but now that they have like another year of St. Maximin, another year of, I think, Callum Wilson's 10, 12 goals in him, and now they're bringing in a full year of Willock, I think they have the quality and like youthful like exuberance to like actually press teams and score goals. I also think Almiron will have a career season. I think he's quite good on the ball and didn't benefit from their system the past few years where they've been sitting back so much. So I think now they have the quality to go forward and actually score goals, I think they'll make a huge jump, and I could even see them being higher than 10th. Maybe a bit of depth they're lacking. I believe week 1 they brought on like Joe Linton and Ryan Fraser, so they could use some more depth, but overall a solid side. I think they'll be tough to beat at home now that fans are back in the stadium. And expect big things from Almiron, St. Maximin, and Willock. I think they'll be really, really exciting trio, and we saw glimmers of that at the end of last year, and I think it'll continue into this year. 9th, we have Tottenham. A lot of questions surrounding Kane. No immediate impact signings. They signed some 20-year-old kid from Spain, but no one that'll be able to like come on right away and make an impact. brand new coach, and question marks around Kane. Maybe lacking some of the depth. I think Ali will give them a boost. He's sort of been missing in a way for the last year and a half. I think he'll give them a boost, but I just think they have too many hurdles right now to overcome. And they're sort of in like a weird transition period. I mean, you could say the past 6-7 years they've relied so much on that Vertonghen, Alderweireld center back pairing along with Kane. That's now looking like it's all gone, and on top of that, they have a new coach. So I feel like it's a weird transition period for them where they still have quality with Son, Ali, I rate Bergwijn, as well as Højbjerg, but no real signings to make up for like their core team that is now going to be gone. Next up, Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal fan myself, so to be honest, I could see them going lower than 8th, but I think they'll just struggle heavily this year. I mean, there'll be bright spots with Martinelli, Saka, Balogun, Emile Smith-Rowe, and Odegaard, but there's just not enough goals in the team. I think they'll get found out. I think it'll be like a lot of 2-1 games, either win or lose. They'll get found out by the big sides. Not enough goals in the team. And I think Arsenal aren't really looking to do that much this year, but their main concern should be keeping Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka for next year. Because another year of experience will only help all these players in the Premier League, all their youngsters, but they can't lose them for next year. If they want to get back into the top 4, even top 6, they have to keep this young core. So they have to do well enough to give these young players a reason to stay for next year. Next up, we have Leeds. Leeds got hammered in the first week versus United, but they got hammered last year versus United and still did very well. I think Bielsa will continue to improve their side. I have full faith in him. And they had some holes in their defense last year. So I think bringing in Junior Firpo from Barcelona is a good signing. Bielsa seems to get the most out of his teams. They brought in Jack Harrison full time. I believe he was on loan from City last year. So they kept their core squad. They signed Junior Firpo. And again, last year there was a bit of a learning curve for them. First year back in the Prem. Now that they're comfortable being there, I think Patrick Bamford will be full of confidence this year. He'll bag 17 goals, I'll say, this year. So they all have a year of experience under their belts. They have a top manager. They brought in a decent signing. I see no reason they shouldn't improve to finishing 7th. 6th, Everton. So, in a way, I feel like Everton's big year should have been last year, and I think they disappointed a lot of people, and they brought in Ancelotti, James, Doucouré, etc. But I think now they've almost gone forgotten about in a way. They'll really, I think, surprise a lot of people with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. I think they'll each get 15 goals. I expect huge things out of that combination. And on top of that, a huge thing that they were missing last year was a solid goalkeeper. I mean, they were taking Pickford out for, I believe his name is Olsen, the Swedish backup keeper. But after this Euros, I think Pickford will be a whole new person, full of confidence. So I think they'll be a lot more solid in the back. And they already had a decent defense. But I think they'll be a lot more solid in the back with a safe hands in Pickford. Expect huge improvements from him to an already pretty solid defense. More goals from Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. I see them getting 6th. Leicester, 5th. I feel bad for them because, they really should have been able to get top 4 at least once in the past 2 years. But the top 4 sides all made marquee signings. While Leicester did address their need, I guess, for more goals, bringing in Daka. But again, he's not a proven player, and I don't believe he'll have the same impact as any of the big 4 signings. So I think they comfortably get 5th, but I almost feel bad for them because they don't have the money to keep up with the top 4. In 4th place, we have Liverpool. So I believe Liverpool will be 1st or 2nd. Maybe the first 12 games into the season, I think they'll be 1st or 2nd. Halfway through, I could see them being 2nd, 3rd. But I think they're going to fall off, and the reason I say that is because they have just been running Mane, Salah, and Firmino into the ground. Signing Jota was big. Origi hasn't really panned out, but they've been running their core group of players into the ground. They lost Wijnaldum. I think Thiago will have a good year now that Liverpool is like fully back to being healthy, but I don't think they have the depth to keep pace with a lot of the bigger sides, especially with the signings of Chelsea, City, and United made. So they're lacking a bit of the depth to like play at their top level for 38 games. However, I see them the second half of the year focusing more heavily on Champions League and even winning it. I think once they realize they won't have the squad rotation to keep up with the bigger sides, they'll focus on keeping their best 11 fully healthy and fit for Champions League, and I see them winning Champions League this year, but struggling in the Prem simply due to the fact that they will have to rotate their squad to keep them fit for Champions League, and the players they rotate in won't have the quality to keep up with United, Chelsea, and City's bench. Number 3, we have United. Great signings in Varane and Sancho. If you were to look at them from 2 years ago when they were bringing on like Juan Mata, Pereira, and Greenwood off the bench, to now they're bringing on like Sancho, a better Greenwood, or even Rashford, and depending on how they play, Cavani as well. I think they have a very, very strong side. Great depth. Bruno and Pogba seem to be working very well together week 1. We'll see if that continues. Fred and McTominay, I feel like they almost overperformed last year, but if they can keep up that same pace, they'll be a side to deal with. The reason I don't have them higher is simply due to their manager and the lack of experience. I think if you were to put Tuchel, Klopp, or Pep in Manchester United with that side, I think they win the Premier League. But I think Solskjaer brings them down a notch, and they just don't have the quality at manager to make the big-time substitutions, to make the small adjustments for huge games that the other big sides have. So United at 3rd, really like what they've done with their bench, but again, just lacking that quality and manager, I think will hurt them in like instances throughout the season. At number 2, we have Chelsea. So on paper, I think the argument is Chelsea could even be better than City. They won Champions League without like a pure goal-scoring striker last year, which is pretty crazy, and they addressed that need by bringing in big Romelu Lukaku. So that's a huge, huge, huge signing. But I think people forget just how new Tuchel is and how much success. And granted, he was able to have an unreal amount of success in his first 6 months as manager. But I think he's still trying to figure out what his best lineup is. And while City have a more like set in top squad, I think Pep knows all his players better than Tuchel does. And I think there's still a lot of questions on like how do you play Pulisic, Havertz, Lukaku, Werner, Mount, etc. So like they have, and it's a good problem to have that much quality up top. But I think it'll hurt them compared to City, because Tuchel's not as familiar with his side as Pep is with his. So while their side is just as talented, if not better than City's, I think they're lacking a bit of the, just experience in winning the Premier League that City have had the past few years. However, Tuchel has obviously had Champions League success very recently, and they were even able to obviously beat City in Champions League. So I see Chelsea making another semi-final Champions League run. I think they have an amazing year, and I think they win the Premier League next year. But this year, I think they're lacking just a little bit of the experience and familiarity that City has. And yes, you could say, oh, well, if Tuchel's inexperienced or isn't familiar with his players, how was he able to win the Champions League? And to that, I'd say a tournament is much different in that you address each game like bit by bit, and it's more about just getting by and getting through. While Premier League, you actually have to go out there and win. The winner of the Premier League this year will probably win 28, 30 games. So you have to actually go out there and win 30 games, and you can't just simply like get by, hold on at defense, hold on, play defensively and solid. You have to actually go out there and win every game. And I think that Tuchel not knowing his best lineup, so to speak, will prevent them from winning. But again, I see them winning next year. Just give Tuchel another year with his players. I have full confidence in him. I think they'll win the Prem next year. City at number 1. I mean, they've been, hands down the best team in the Premier League the past 4 or 5 years. They brought in more depth with Grealish as if they needed any more. They have the best defense in the Premier League. Top keeper. I mean, what else can you say about them? They're built to win the Premier League. They have the squad rotation. They have the manager. They have the experience. I don't see a scenario where they really lose the Premier League unless they have a huge injury. Unless they have a couple of huge injuries. I think they win this year, but again, I think that United and Chelsea are like right on their heels. So I see them I see City getting 3rd next year and winning it this year. So yeah, that's my Premier League predictions. Again, this was done 1 week into the year. Let me know what you guys think. I think areas that I could be wrong. I could see, or like my main picks is I could see Newcastle. I have them 10th. I could see them getting even higher than that. I could also see either Wolves or Southampton going down with maybe like a Norwich and a Brighton staying up. But yeah, I feel bad for Leicester because they're right on the cusp of top 4 every year, but the rich just got richer. And if you look at their signings, I mean, yes, okay, Liverpool just brought in Konate, but having a healthy Virgil is basically a signing they didn't have from last year. So massive signing. Sancho and Varane, massive signings. Lukaku, massive signing. Grealish, massive signing. I mean, they all pretty much have £100 million signings. Again, if you're looking at it like Virgil coming back. While Leicester brought in Daka. So I just don't think they have the quality or money to keep up with the top 4 this year. So yeah, those are my predictions. Let me know what you guys think. And let's hope I'm not too wrong. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.